Welcome. You're listening to the Leading Hope Podcast. My name is VJ Williams, here with my friend and pastor, Kevin Jack. Thank you for joining us and taking time out of your day to become a better leader. If you're new, we release a new episode every Wednesday. We would love for you to download that on your favorite podcast platform and subscribe there as well every week. Also, share this with a friend on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Also, please rate and review or both on Apple Podcasts. You won't believe how that helps get this podcast in the hands of so many more leaders just like you, trying to get better like us. Visit leadinghope.online or DM us for questions, updates, find out more about the Leading Hope community. Pastor Kevin.
Woo!
Today is episode 215, which is our friends in
Philadelphia. A podcast for Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
I don't know what happened. We turned episode numbers into area codes, but it's a thing now.
Yeah.
So we're so glad that you're joining us.
So from the past on these recent ones, shout out to Manhattan, 212, LA, the 213, Dallas, the 214, and now Philadelphia, the 215.
Look at that memory.
Oh, look at it.
Would you look at it? Would you just look at it? Would you just look at it?
I'm as equally excited to record the next episode as I am to figure out, because I don't think to look it up.
Don't do it
till we get there.
There we go. All right, great.
There's going to be someday, even though I don't play trivia, that I'm at a trivia night, and this is going to come in so handy.
Oh yeah, you're going to be like the big winner.
Yeah, or
that. Just
answer a meaningless question as my team slowly descends towards defeat.
Yeah, well, that's important because today is episode 215, and you've called this the flow of feedback.
The flow of feedback.
Yes.
So here's a real simple idea. Okay. Feedback should flow from the expert towards the student, and it should flow from the follower to the leader.
Whoa.
In that direction.
Simple.
But no one does it.
Yeah.
Like the expert to the student, everyone's like,
well, yeah.
Duh.
Yeah.
From teacher to pupil, of course, I get that. But it should also flow from the follower to the leader and not the other way.
Okay.
How we feel?
We're ready to hear what you have to say about this, too.
So here's let me kind of break down, because I believe everyone does the first one. Almost no one does the second one.
A lot of people do the first one.
Well, I mean, otherwise, if there's a student, they're not a student of the expert unless if there's, okay.
There we go.
If there's actually a relationship there, then that happens.
Yeah.
But no one's surprised.
Right.
I would say by that statement. It should flow from the expert to the student. Yep. Duh.
Yep. You're correct.
So the point is that there is a difference between, let me say it like this. The feedback should flow in the direction of the person who has information towards the direction of the person who has information that is helpful. Okay. So the expert knows what the student doesn't. And so when there are skills that need to be acquired, talent that is looking to be developed, that is the direction that feedback should flow. It doesn't make sense for the student to tell the expert in terms of skills. Okay, that's the important piece, in terms of skills. Now, the difference between the leader and follower is people think that the leader should be giving the follower feedback. They should be in terms of skills.
Okay.
But not in terms of leadership. Because the leader does not exist in the wake of the leadership of the follower. So just make it really simple. If I was to give someone on our team feedback on their leadership, I could tell them skills that could be developed. I would communicate it like this. I would run this meeting like this. I would start to operate in this way or try this thing. But that is from, this sounds weird because I've kind of set myself up in this awkward position. That is from someone who is more competent in the skills towards someone who is less competent in the skills.
Yeah.
But that is not just that is not the leadership Like that's part of the like talent part of it, but it's not the environment of leadership that they have created. And so if somebody comes to me and they're just like, hey, would you give me feedback on my leadership? I can't, because I don't live in the wake of your leadership. I don't know what it's like to be led by you. And so if you want to help me, if you want me to help you develop a specific skill, I can do that. But I can't tell you how to lead better because I've never been led by you. And so I don't know what that looks like. The only way that I actually have feedback for you on your leadership is if someone doesn't trust you with their feedback who is on your team and they skip you and come to me.
Right.
In which the feedback that I would offer is you need to learn how to develop a culture of trust and conflict simultaneously so you're getting this information directly.
Yeah.
But I just think it's fascinating because people think that it's the leader's role to give feedback in all things. And they can develop in areas in which they're competent. Sorry, I didn't mean confident. They can develop in areas in which they're competent in terms of skills. But the quality of feedback that they can deliver to someone on their leadership is almost worth nothing. Like my perspective on someone on our team's leadership is just a hair better than someone who's walking in off the street, who's never been in our organization, but who's a good leader. Like it's just a little bit better than that because I'm in proximity. And I think the piece that just like fascinates me is no one actually takes that time. The relationship becomes dysfunctional because people think their leader isn't helping them if they're not giving them feedback when they're not positioned to, and they're not seeking out the feedback from the people who they need to be seeking it out from.
Yeah, that's good. I think this the challenge is the difference between the expert and the student.
Yep.
In turning the language to now leader to follower.
Yep.
And when those actually occur.
Yep.
Because it's based on skill, is what you're saying.
So let me say, so there are. We've talked about this before. This sounds like, but like there are within leadership a whole bunch of different skills that are needed. But leadership inherently is a relationship. I can be a good leader without exercising good leadership in an environment. I can be a better leader than someone else in a different organization. But if I step into their organization, I'm not the leader because I don't have that relationship.
Yeah.
I'm not viewed in that capacity.
Right.
That makes sense?
Yeah.
So like within those pieces.
Unless you were accomplished.
Stop it.
Which is a few episodes ago.
Stop it. Our episode to the people of LA.
But yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. So the thing that just gets me is to go like, if you want to say examples from our team, like someone comes the other day, they say, hey, I could use your help setting up structure of meetings. That I can help with. I need you to give me feedback on my leadership. I cannot help you with that because I'm not on your team. And so we've got to get better of understanding first, that's the direction that feedback should actually flow. Like if it's skills, I can help. If it's the environment and culture that you've created, all I have is some rough observations from what I see, which aren't always very helpful. And so we've got to understand like, hey, this is when I'm helping you as an expert, and this is when I need feedback to flow back to me, and making sure that those two things are actually taking place.
Yeah.
Otherwise, our leadership isn't getting better, and otherwise other people's skills aren't actually improving over time.
Yeah. I'm going to ask the question. It's going to be, I understand what you're saying.
Okay.
I'm asking this as a viewer might be thinking it.
Cool.
As they're hearing this right now.
Let's go.
Because this is the feedback flow, not the feedback fence.
Ooh.
Right. So in order to not have fence, it's got to flow, blah, blah, blah. But if how do you lead a leader who doesn't lead you?
Yeah, I don't think that's the that is, I'm glad you pulled that out Okay.
Yeah, it's an obvious, I mean, at least obvious question to me that I know it's wordplay.
No. You're saying like, okay, if feedback should flow from me to my leader, how do I get them to listen?
Well, yeah, how do you lead them
Yeah.
if you are to lead, there's leader. I mean, we all know there's leaders
Yep.
of leaders.
Yep. This would be my response.
Yeah.
Don't think about that.
Okay.
Ensure that feedback is flowing to you from your team.
So that's more important isn't the wordplay. And the more important part
Yeah.
is which way the information is coming.
Yeah, well, I would say it is like this, is to say like people who get hung up on my leader never asked for my opinion, my leader doesn't know what I'm thinking, my leader's incompetent in this. Those people are not spending their time getting feedback from their team.
Got it.
On how they need to improve. Because I can assure you, if they were actually getting feedback from their team, they would have more grace towards their leader.
It's good.
And they just like quite clearly, it's amazing when you have extra time, how you can use it just to blame others.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And point out all their deficiencies.
Of course.
So like, okay, that's the helpful way to go. Like if you're in those middle positions, get feedback on skills. Understand, just to be blunt, like if they're giving you feedback on your leadership, you should probably listen. Like you should probably implement it.
Sure.
However, you should probably also not take it as ultimate authority and the final say on all things. You still have to respond to it. So like you understand like, hey, this is where I need feedback from my leader on skills, but I also need to be actively getting feedback from my team because they're the ones. I've said it like this over time. As you go, your team will teach you how to lead them if you let them. Like they want to be led well. And each person is different in how they need to be led.
Yeah.
And if you let them teach you how to lead them, like they will. Now, they could also find themselves in a spot. This is where you have to be cautious. They could find themselves in a spot where they just start blaming you for all things and everything's a leadership issue. And that's when you have to actually lead in those situations. But the feedback is still invaluable.
Yeah. I want to make sure that we cover this just a little bit more. Just so we can define the role of the expert to the student and the leader to the follower.
Yep.
What are the main
Categories,
characteristics,
Yeah.
environments, atmosphere? Like, what is those so that we can say, okay, in this moment, the expert is giving me a skill.
This is a great question.
Yeah, and then in this moment, there's not a skill involved here. I'm not trying to answer the question for you, but
Nope.
I think you understand the question.
Here's how it should flow.
Yep.
I want to give a question in just a second for the team, but I want people to understand the flow first.
Yeah.
Is you need to ask you need to get feedback from your team on what skills you're deficient in. And it may not just be skills, it may be virtues as well. It's like, you're great, you're not patient. So that needs to develop.
Right.
You need to get feedback on that. And then you need to be able to go to your leader or even someone else outside the organization or not as a direct report to be able to acquire those skills that are necessary to better lead your team.
That's great.
Okay. And so going to an expert without them having the context of what needs to be improved. So like I could drive right now to whoever is considered the best leader in the world. So I could drive to John Maxwell. John Maxwell, how do I need to improve? He's not going to be helpful.
Well, Kevin.
I was not anticipating that to happen. He, as brilliant as he is,
Yeah.
he's not going to be helpful because he doesn't have context.
Yeah.
If I would go to him and said, I need to get better at this, he would be immensely helpful.
Yeah.
And so we need to position experts in the spot where they can help us most by not looking to experts for feedback.
It's good.
By looking to
Yeah.
them for insight, but the feedback has to come from the people we're leading.
So you're not saying that the leader and the expert don't wear the same hat.
Say that again.
The leader and the expert, I was assuming that sometimes they're the same person. And in this,
Yes, it can be.
okay.
Yeah.
And that's what I was trying to get to is like, and what you said is exactly
Yeah.
what I was looking for. I was just trying to say, in the context of which you're speaking, it seems as though there's the leader to the follower needs the information flowing back to them so they know what skills to need. But then they need to take off leader hat into expert hat to actually deliver that.
Yep.
Okay.
Let me make it like really just practical between us.
Yeah.
This is awkward.
Yeah, for sure.
If you were to come to me and say, what do I need to do better leading?
Yeah.
I don't really have a helpful answer.
Yeah.
If you were to come to me and say, how can I improve in this?
Yeah.
I can help you.
Got it. Cool. That's great.
In those spots. Now, I may be as the leader, or it could be someone else, but that's important to understand.
So what do you do to create a culture of this specific topic, which is the flow that we are looking to seek in feedback?
So 2 things that I've routinely done.
Okay.
And so I give these as like, these may be a little too more catered to my personality.
Okay.
But I think they're effective no matter who you are. The first one is, here's the specific question that you should ask. And I also want to give the context. The question you need to ask is, what can I do or stop doing to better lead you?
That's great.
What can I do or stop doing to better lead you? Here's why this question is the best. Because it is customized. Because to better lead you.
Yeah.
Your opinion is not wrong.
Right.
I'm not saying, what can I do to be a better leader? Because now this is a generic question, as if leadership is not a relationship.
Right.
And people feel the pressure of like, well, I don't know. But if you say, what can I do or stop doing to better lead you? You probably know.
Yeah.
You probably have an idea on that. If you're asking someone and they don't have an answer, do not take that result as you're an amazing leader.
Right.
Take the result as they're not a leader because they're not thinking through things in that lens.
It's good.
If you're asking potential leaders that question, they have an answer.
There you go.
So you ask that question, and then here's the context, which is really important, is you ask it individually first. You will get to a spot if it is in the culture where you can ask it within a team. But you need to ask it to individual people first. Because if you have a bad culture on your team and they're already complaining about your leadership, and then you go and ask them as a group, like, what can I do or stop doing to better lead y'all? And they don't trust you, they're not going to answer.
Yeah.
But if you go individually to a person, there's no escape route there. Yeah. I'm not telling you that the first answer they're going to give you is the best. So here's the second follow-up question you ask within that is you ask, what else? I know this is like mind-blowing.
Yeah.
You don't just take their first answer and go, boom. You assume there's something else there, that their courage to share that first thing was not everything.
Right.
So what can I do or stop doing to better lead you? Thank you. You take notes.
Yeah.
You write it down. You listen. You don't defend.
Right.
You don't deflect. And there you go. What else?
It's good.
I've heard you. Now I need to know.
Yeah. That's great.
I think that is the most important thing, is asking that question and asking the follow-up question.
How often are you asking those questions?
So then here's the other side of it, okay, is I want to give the further piece. Is I believe once that's in the culture, you don't have to ask it nearly as regularly. And so the thing that I've started saying, even more so, is to say, I'm not always going to think to ask, but I always want to know. And I hear regular feedback from people because I think I've built their trust in a way that they know that I really want to know.
Yeah.
That's not just lip service. And so I get people stopping in my office once a week. I'll say it like that.
That's a
I probably
lot.
get once a week someone's telling me how I could be a better leader.
That's great.
And they're not a jerk about it.
Right.
Because they know I'm going to listen and respond.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you want to be in an organization like that. Otherwise, you will have no relationships.
Yep.
And your purpose will be deflated.
Yep.
That's really good.
Yep.
All right. How do you want to end this episode? 215, the flow of feedback.
Yeah, I want people to understand within the flow of feedback is that people will say, oh, I'm not being developed. You should be setting your development agenda, and you should be doing it from the feedback of your team, and then you need to elicit your leader and other experts. I'm not saying your leader is an expert,
Right.
but they're in that position.
Correct.
Is that you need to elicit those people to help fill out your development agenda. But like, I'm not being developed. Leaders don't say that.
Yep.
They know how feedback should flow, and they know how to make the best use of people in different positions.
Yep. So good. Thank you guys for joining us. If you're new to the podcast or haven't yet subscribed, it'd mean the world to us if you did that now. Also, post about it, rate and review, or both. You won't believe how that helps get this podcast in the hands of so many more leaders just like you, trying to get better like us. Love hearing your stories of how the podcast is working in your life and business. If you have a story, visit leadinghope.online or send us a DM on Instagram or Facebook. We'd love to hear from you. And remember, everyone
Everyone
has 20 minutes to learn to become a better leader. Make it count.
Woo!